What are some of the key elements of lifting heavy and staying injury free? So I had a different video plan for today, but Matt asked this question and I really wanted to get stuck into it. He recently competed, I think just last weekend, and he hurt his back on his third deadlift. I hope you're feeling better, man, and I hope it's nothing serious. Having injured myself before, I know how much that sucks. So the question is how to reduce the risk of injury when lifting heavy. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say is pretty basic and straightforward, and people are going to turn around and go, oh, again, with the basic tips. But the reason they get spit out so much by people is because they work, right? A lot of our coaching, Tyler and I, is about giving people the least amount of risk for the most reward. Sometimes you need to push the envelope, but it shouldn't be all the time. So with that said, let's get into number one, and that is form. Now, I know you're probably rolling your eyes, but I don't mean, learn how to squat better. A lot of people, so Matt says heavyweight. When you're lifting heavier weights, a lot of the time you find people let little things go. So little form discrepancies go over time and then they turn into big things. So for me, right now, it's like my T-spine mobility is really bad. And a lot of time when I squat heavy, I can't keep my back tight, the bar rolls up on my back. It's something we're trying to hammer out now, something I should have fixed 5 years ago. So when I say form, I don't mean learn how to squat. I mean, try to make your squat as efficient as possible. If you get a little bit of lumbar rounding, if your knees cave a little bit, if the bar rolls on your back, get that sorted. Take the time to sort that out now, because don't wait for next training cycle. Next training cycle, you'll get really excited again and you'll want to shift some heavy weights and it just won't happen. And then 5 years down the line, that little form issue turns into something that injures you and puts you out for 2 or 3 months. We've all been there, I've been there. So get it sorted now. That's the number one tip. Fix the little form issues that you have and they won't turn into big issues. But if you ignore them, they will. It's not if, it's when. The next one would be programming, right? I know another basic one, but a lot of the time people see other lifters on social media like Larry Wheels doing crazy weights, deadlifting heavy every week, and they want to do the same thing. So they add stuff into their programming, or they just don't have a program, go heavy all the time. You don't need to go to a coach to get a good program. Powerlifting is amazing because people want to share what they know. There's so many free resources online. Like you go to look at Chad Wesley Smith articles, look at Chico's, free programs. Like if that's how you want to train, look at, I don't know, a Barbell Brigade. Like all of these people putting out amazing free resources. You have no excuse to not have a well-structured program, even if you don't have a coach. Lifting heavy every week isn't a program. I know a lot of the time it looks like people just go heavy all the time. Even myself, I was just doing 280 kilo AMRAPs on deads and same on bench, like 165. But that is a very small piece of the pie that is training. So get a proper program, make sure you're not just going balls to the wall all the time. If some of your training isn't easy, you're probably pushing it too much, especially if you're not like a career lifter or athlete. I don't mean getting paid by powerlifting, I mean social media, right? But make sure your program's dialed in. It pays to get a coach, but if you can't, there's so many free online resources that you can look at. Don't be that guy that goes in there and does a 1 rep max every week on deadlift because you have a nice 1 or 2 year powerlifting career and then you'll be like, oh, what went wrong? See that so much. The next one, or the next two, kind of line up, but they are set realistic goals and be honest with yourself, right? So they go hand in hand, but I've been here and I've done this. And that is having a good training cycle and just assuming I can do way more than I can. So that's talking about 1 rep maxes, right? So I'll go to a comp and I'll be like, I want to squat 340. I'm not strong enough to do 340, but I'll try it. And that, a lot of the time that leads to injuries, or can do. I'm lucky that hasn't happened to me, but it's something you see a lot. A lifter gets in their head that, last time they squatted 15 kilo PB, this time they want to do 15 kilos. They go for it, they tear a quad, or, it rolls down their back, they hurt their shoulder, or anything in between. Be honest with yourself. Realize that you're not always going to progress so fast. A lot of training cycles, you might not progress. A lot of training cycles you might not progress at all. And you really need to take the time to take a step back and look at your training objectively. That ties in with setting realistic goals too. Those 10, 15 kilo PBs don't last a long time. Don't try to keep them coming forever, right? If you're always trying to do massive PBs, you will get to a point where you injure yourself. I remember 2016 when I tore my quad, I wanted that 320 squat, and I remember Wilk saying, no, just do 315, do 315. I was like, no, I want that 320, I want that big PB, because up to that point, I think I'd done 15, 20 kilos every competition on my squat, and I just didn't want to hear that I couldn't do that anymore. I went down in the hole, I did have some form issues, the weight was just too damn heavy, and I got pinned by it, tore my quad, and the rest is history. So be honest with your abilities and set realistic goals. And the last one is don't ignore issues, right? So we said that about form, but if you're getting pain in your quad, in your shoulder, in your bicep, don't ignore it and just cross your fingers and hope it goes away, right? Because a lot of the time it doesn't, and it'll actually make you start moving in a different way. So if your quad hurts, you might squat in a different way, then you hurt your hip, then you deadlift differently, so you tweak your back, I don't know. But a lot of the time these little things turn into bigger things. So you want to get those sorted straight away. Your body is worth a lot more than an $80 physio visit, right? So use that resource and don't let those things turn into big things that put you out for months, because you'll kick yourself afterwards. Really pay attention and be in tune with your body, right? If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. Don't just ignore it. Go get it sorted out. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Massive thanks for the input. I hope this isn't too boring and too simple, but I just really wanted to answer Matt's question, especially because he's just coming off of an injury. Now to you, Matt, don't stress. It's going to be okay, but also fork out the money to see a good physio, and I know you will, because you're really good at stuff like that, like, paying attention to your body and getting help when you need it. And I hope your recovery is really good, man. Get your questions in, and I'm going to answer them next week. So next week's topic is going to be not comparing yourself to people on social media and setting realistic goals, right? Or being honest with yourself. But I also, at the end of every video, want to answer some of your questions down below that you put down below. I feel like a real YouTuber now. Comment down below. Yeah, it's something I want to add on. It might answer over 30 seconds to a minute, and just start getting some user questions in, like I do on Instagram. It's a bit of fun, and it gives it a bit of variation. Sometimes I might make a whole video on it. I also hope that you didn't mind the random B-roll we added into this. So, yep.